So is it better to be like well-rounded, or is it better to be like angular or just really into like one subject?
We see both types of students, and both types get admitted, both types sometimes do not.
Hi, welcome to the Vision interview. My name is Fred, and we have some very special guests today. We have former admission officers from Harvard, Penn, and Caltech. Guys, would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, hi. My name is Abdiel, and I am a former admissions officer at Harvard College.
Hi, I'm Maria. I used to be an admissions officer at Penn.
Hi, I'm Derek, and I was previously an admissions officer at Caltech.
Guys, thank you so much for being with us today. Our first question is more of an open-ended question. How difficult is it to get into Harvard, Penn, or Caltech? Like, how complicated and competitive is it during the admissions season?
Okay, well, I'm happy to go ahead and kick it off. I was going to say, when you think about all of these schools and some of the other institutions, they're very selective, right? So the admissions rates are probably in the single digits for a lot of our schools. So to say that it's easy is not true. It is a very competitive and selective process. And I think that is very true for both the students as well as us working in admissions. When we're looking at it, it's a competitive process all around.
Okay, sounds good. So a lot of people say that GPA and SAT scores are the most important factor for getting into the top US colleges. And other people say that impressive awards and extracurricular activities like far more important or just as important. What are your thoughts on that?
So it is true that GPA and SAT scores are important factors in the process. However, there are many other parts of a student's application that are very important as well, including their involvement outside of the classroom. And to that, I will say that colleges are looking that students are involved in their communities and that they are engaging with their peers, with their educators. And so that is why we often in admissions talk about reviewing the whole person, the whole student, not just, of course, their academic achievements, but in the totality of what they have contributed in their communities as well.
Yeah, I would say that balance and alignment is the name of the game. So one side of the equation, the GPA and the SAT scores or ACT scores are very important, but they cannot stand alone. And we're looking to admit people into these very community-oriented schools. So how you're already involved and what you're doing outside the classroom is just as important.
Okay. I'm actually curious to hear what Derek has to say. Derek, you evaluated applicants for Caltech, right? And which is obviously a very science-oriented school. Many people tend to stereotype Caltechs as like geeks or nerds. So is it safe to assume that you mainly look for like high calculus scores or STEM awards?
So I think that assumption or that stereotype is a little off because STEM is really the foundation. STEM is the base of what every Caltech student should have. So I think when it comes to like actually looking at a student and how they're going to present, it's not just about their love of STEM or that passion for STEM, because almost every student has it. It really is thinking of who they are, kind of those non-cognitive factors, right? So what impact has the student made? How are they contributing to their community, their school? And if they are doing anything STEM focused, the context really matters too. Like, why do they really love this particular area of STEM? So yeah, I guess context matters. And I don't think all of the students are geeks or nerds, but they definitely do have a very deep passion for STEM. It's not just an interest, it really is a passion.
Great. Here's another tough question by one of our students. If I'm a valedictorian in my high school, won a major award, and lead a really big volunteer group, would I get the best rating across the academic, EC, and personal categories, or no?
So I can answer this one. So a student might be valedictorian and not receive the highest rating because in the greater context, we are looking to see what else a student might be contributing academically. Are they pursuing original work? Are they demonstrating a depth of involvement that is just goes beyond surface level? And so it really is relative. I would not say that being a valedictorian automatically gets you the highest rating possible.
I see. So it's more than just the numbers.
That's right.
There isn't a magic formula for how to play the numbers. for the ratings game as well. And so we pay attention a lot to the details, not just that the overall achievement has been accomplished.
Yeah, I was going to add, I mean, you really have to think about it too. Like, there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of high schools, and there are valedictorians at each school. And the number of seats, like for example, at Caltech, 250 incoming students, we couldn't even offer it to every valedictorian if we wanted to, just because there's not enough seats. And I think even across all of our schools, there wouldn't be enough seats, even if we took every valedictorian. So it's more than just that ranking. There are some other things in that fit between the institution. I think you said alignment and balance. Yeah.
I also want to go beyond the academic factor because there's extracurricular involvement, right? And a student might be very involved, say they are in band or doing service in their local community. And that again is relative because what the admissions committee is looking to see is again that the depth and the commitment level, right? And so a student might get a higher rating if, say, they have been pursuing this for many years, this certain activity, or they have collaborated on a grander scale beyond their school community. Maybe it's a local or a national level commitment. And so those are all the pieces that might contribute to just how highly you might rate that.
Next question is, there are many questions people have about evaluating academic records. What are your thoughts about the following? Okay, so the first one is, should I risk getting a few Bs by taking more advanced classes, or be more like moderate or drawn back and then on course rigor and maintain a straight A? Maybe we could start with Derek first.
Yeah, I was going to say, when we're looking at a student and all that they've accomplished academically, rigor is one of the things that's very, very important. If you think about it, the level of courses that you're taking in high school are not going to compare to the level of courses that you're going to be taking when you go to college. So if you are intentionally pulling back, so you were already on an advanced course, an honors course, and you pull back because you want to make sure that you get that A, that's not going to look good. Mostly because we want to see you continue to push yourself, take the more rigorous courses, because that signals success when you come onto our campuses. So I would definitely not encourage a student to take a class that's easier just to get a better grade, but really try to push themselves. And I also think it's thinking about the resources and what they have available at that school. So we're not going to expect you to take a rigorous course that's not available at your school. But if you are taking the most rigorous courses at your school, that's what we're really looking at.
Do you distinguish certain APs from others? Like, say, maybe AP Human Geo, you might see that as a little bit easier than AP Literature, or is that not the case?
I think it's all going to depend on who the student is and their reasons for taking that AP course. So if you're just doing AP Human Geo because you want to take an extra AP class and you think that's going to look good, but it really doesn't, or you don't do well on it, or it really doesn't match, I guess, the picture that you're trying to put across, it's just another number. And even though at Caltech, STEM is a number and there's lots of data and things that go into it, it really is a human process. So we're not looking at just those numbers.
I would say the other way that really can come into the conversation in the committee room is related to the program or maybe the major that you're applying to. So if you are applying to some kind of humanities major and we're seeing that you're taking more of those AP classes or other advanced classes in the humanities area, that's going to stand out more. So if you have that choice to follow your academic interests to that higher level within your school, that would be great to see on applications. And that can also help if students are struggling with like their schedule and what classes to pick and that sort of thing.
I will also say that sometimes it's really important for students to think about their own context, right? And not worry about, maybe you have a friend at a different school and they have an IB system, but you don't. An admissions team is never going to hold you accountable for something that isn't offered at your school, right? So it really is about pursuing the rigor within the context of your school. And then the other point I'll say too is that the question of whether I pursue rigor and maybe sacrifice, these schools are and schools, not or schools. So you want to do the rigor and excel at it, ideally.
Yeah. So one additional thing that I want to add about the AP classes too, each school, I guess, has, or each high school, right, says that, each student can take up to X amount of AP classes. So that is something to keep in mind too, because if your school allows you to take 8 AP courses across your entire high school career, it might be a good idea to push yourself, especially when you're thinking of the other students in your class. So if everybody is taking a lot of AP classes, make sure that you're taking them, but the ones that match your academic interest too.
Actually, I have another question about this. So certain boarding schools in the US, they actually don't offer APs, but they offer college level courses, right? And a lot of parents come to me and ask, hey, is it really okay not to take the AP tests? And my answer is that it's usually okay. What are your thoughts?
I completely agree. I read a lot of boarding schools when I worked in admissions at Penn, and we pay attention to the school profile. The school tells us what classes are available at that high school, how many, if there are any caps on the number of courses that they're able to take at that advanced level, and the special curriculums that they rename. So a lot of those boarding schools have taken a lot of the AP concepts and put them into their own named courses. So I can see that and evaluate and understand those are the most rigorous courses available to that student at that school. And that translates well for preparation for the really strong academic programs at school at these highly selective colleges that we have read for.
Okay, thank you. Another very common question that I hear are questions like this. Is 1540 high enough SAT score for the top schools, or should I try for better?
So one thing that a student can do, and this is publicly available information, is to look at the ranges in middle 50% and 75 percentiles of the colleges that a student is interested in, because that will give you a very real sense of the students that are admitted, where are they typically scoring. So in terms of preparation, that might be helpful. I will say, however, that test scores are really just one piece of a much, much larger pie. And so I would encourage students, if they are doing very well in their tests, to not worry too much about splitting hairs and maybe that extra 10 points. At the end of the day, the test scores really are just one piece, and there is something to be said about students devoting their limited and precious time and energy and resources to the areas that ultimately are where the admissions committee is spending most of their time, which are the activities and their involvements and why they want to attend the university.
I know that's not a clear yes, no, but I think it's to say that having strong test scores aligns with this idea of strong academic prep for these very rigorous schools. And we want to make sure that all the students that we're admitting will be successful as possible academically. So that's why the score is important, but it's not going to be the distinguishing or final factor that's actually getting students admitted. And so to keep that in mind when it comes to their priorities for exploring their interests, and the application is reflecting what was done. You still got to live your life in the day-to-day, right? So
Okay. Yeah, ready to add, Derek? Or?
Yeah, I was going to say, I completely agree. I think at all of our schools, we probably have a large number of students with 1600s who have been denied, and students with lower scores who have been accepted. So I think it really is just one piece of that puzzle. So definitely focus on and do your best to get the highest score that you can get, and then worry about devoting time to all of the other things that make you you.
Okay, good. Last common questions from our students. What do you say about taking AP exams that you didn't take a class on during your high school?
It is not necessary. I think that a student should, again, it's all within the context of what is offered at their school, right? But if your school, for example, does not offer APs or didn't offer a particular AP class, the admissions committee is not going to expect you to take that corresponding AP exam.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll add something a little bit different, a different perspective to it too. So I've definitely seen students who maybe go to a school where they only have regular physics offered. And so that student wants to go to a place like Caltech. They want to show that they can handle a rigorous course and that they do have advanced knowledge or expertise in this. So I've seen students who their school only offers this level of physics, so they went above and beyond and then studied extra and then took that AP test, and that does signal something about their passion for STEM. It's not just that interest, it really is a passion. So I think it depends, but once again, that is in the context of where the student is and what's offered at the school. It's not expected, but it's a way that a student can show that extra passion or extra expertise or knowledge in a subject area.
But if a student is taking HL physics in an IB curriculum, they don't need to take AP physics, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would reiterate what Derek said about being able to, especially for those STEM areas, so applying to something like Penn Engineering or to Wharton and being able to have that AP Calculus or that AP Physics C, where your school doesn't offer like AP classes or doesn't have like very high of a rigor, can be really beneficial in the process, but never expected. It would be like icing on the cake.
Oh, yeah. Here's some questions about extracurricular activities. What's an outstanding extracurricular activity?
Something that you're very excited about, that you're able to dedicate yourself to, that maybe you've been able to really contribute to that community or experience at increasing levels over the years, I would say is a great activity. That could be anything from service to an academic oriented program. It could be sports, it could be music, it could be a job. It could be any sort of thing that really makes sense for you and your exploration of your interests and how you want to be a part of a community in the world. There's no requirement or expectation for a very specific extracurricular that any student is participating in.
Okay.
I agree. And there's also not a requirement that a student must do X amount of time in each bucket or area of an extracurricular category. That's not how we look at it. And instead, it's really about where are the students' interests, so where do their interests lie, and how well are they able to communicate that? Essentially, what proof do they have that these are the interests? How do you demonstrate that this is what you're interested in?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's something that you're able to actually develop some depth in. So it isn't really about just the title of it, but like what you've actually been able to do in it and kind of explore it, as Maria was saying. And I think one thing to keep in mind too is making sure that the way that you communicate what you did in that activity, that's going to really matter too. So it's not just the title or what it is, it's how you were involved and how you deepen that interest in that extracurricular activity.
We also get a lot of questions about breadth and depth. So is it better to be like well-rounded, or is it better to be like angular or just really into like one subject?
We see both types of students, and both types get admitted, both types sometimes do not. I think in the totality of building a class, you want to have a balanced class. But the students themselves, we see not just both types, but everything in between, right? And so definitely something to be said about a student who has many interests and is pursuing those in various ways. But we very much see students who have a very particular interest in, it could even be quite niche, right, in an area, but they are all in, and they can clearly demonstrate why they're all in and can articulate how that contributes to how they can see themselves pursuing that in college at a higher level.
And some people, it took a little longer to find the thing that they're interested in, or they're interested in multiple things. And that's really great to see too, to be able to understand the journey that the student is on. I think a lot of us are drawn to this job because we enjoy getting to know the journey and the story, and we believe that the journey is just as important as the destination, right? So we get excited to learn about that for students and think it's an important part of the exploration they'll keep doing in college and in more of life. So we're hoping to see that over their last 4 years in high school as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think this actually kind of goes hand in hand with that question about applying undecided, right? Like it's really great for a student if they have that really niche thing and they really love that. Like we love to see that too. But there are those students who are just really good at a lot of different things and they like a lot of different things. So I would encourage students not to necessarily try to do everything because they think that's what a school wants, because typically it's very easy to see that like that student really does not have a passion or excel in all of those things, that they're just trying to check a box, versus actually you see them interested in a lot of things and they do well in it, or one thing that they just really devote tons of time to.
And the good news is that our schools are designed for both types of students.
What kind of activities should students prioritize on their activity lists? Like, can you tell apart from like genuine activities from like sort of like contrived or like made up activities, or not really?
I think it's important to put the activities that you have been like the longest committed to, especially a lot of times those like school-based activities, earlier in the activity list rather than the kind of like one-time things. It can vary a lot. There's no wrong answer because we're going to read the entire list, but being able to see that continued commitment and dedication and leadership from those activities is going to be really useful. If it's not that important to you or your journey, I would say you can definitely put those at the end of the list.
Is there any one quality in extracurricular activities that will really set me apart from others? Like, are there qualities such as leadership, collaboration, warmth, etc. that stands out more than others?
Well, I will say that some of the characteristics you just mentioned are quite important. When we look at the kinds of schools that we worked at, these are schools where collaboration and being able to work well with others is highly, highly valued. That you are able to engage with people who might have differing opinions than you. So in that regard, yes. And that also is what allows us to, when we get a sense of that, we can really see, we can picture you on our campus contributing, collaborating, engaging with peers. And so, yes, I think that's a good example of how we really are looking at a student well beyond the numbers.
Yeah, we're not just admitting people to go to class.
Yeah.
There's more that you're going to do when you go to college, right? And so it's really important to see how you're already doing more beyond just going to school every day and going home and hanging out on the couch. And we're looking through that when we're seeing the extracurricular profiles. Like we're admitting someone's future roommate. We're admitting maybe someone's future business partner or, the person who thinks of this next big idea that's really going to bring others into changing the world. And that's very important for campuses. Plus, there are lots of clubs and activities on the campus where we need to make sure people are going to keep being a part of those. So we're looking for people for all kinds of different involvement.
So on the Harvard team, we would often talk about something that we would refer to as the distinguishing excellence, or the DE. And what that really speaks to is that thing, that spark that a student has in their, whether it's an activity or just a passion or an interest, that really is what is going to set them apart from other students. As we said earlier, the vast majority of students who apply to these types of schools are academically highly qualified, right? And so what is that thing that is that extra step further? And I can give you some examples. In the past, I've seen students who are engaged in national level policy work or advocacy, and they are really advancing really important work and are able to articulate that clearly in their applications. It doesn't have to be that. It could be original work that they're pursuing, whether it's in STEM or in the humanities, but it is that thing that they've devoted a lot of time into. They have perhaps, I wouldn't even say expertise, but just a very, very deep high-level interest, and that is what might set those students apart.